Hey there, Matt Hamilton, author of Through Travel and Error, Confessions of an Asylum-Seeking Canadian. Welcome back to my online readings. This week's chapter 12, which is called Expectations. As the title indicates, when I arrived in South Africa, in Cape Town, I had zero expectations and was completely blown away in a very good way by what I discovered in this place. It was overwhelming. So much so that I realized that maybe I should eliminate expectations from my travel philosophy. And here's the reason why. Chapter 12, Expectations. If I didn't have any expectations, then it was impossible to be disappointed. If I expected a country to have electricity or hot water and it didn't, then I'd be pretty pissed off about the situation. However, if I didn't expect these basic amenities anywhere in the country and they did exist, then I'd be pretty happy and overwhelmingly surprised about the state of affairs. I'm not saying that setting high standards is a bad thing or that we shouldn't strive for the best in life. I'm simply suggesting that sometimes it can be beneficial to not have high expectations. For instance, when you are traveling in a completely unknown part of the world, it is my recommendation to leave all expectations at the gate. When I arrived in South Africa, I had zero expectations. Well, I did expect to get mugged at some point, and I expected to not be able to wash off the blood because there wouldn't be any hot water. Thankfully, and to help prove my point, those expectations weren't met. Not only did I avoid being mugged and enjoy long, hot showers, but I also found a spectacular city with a beautiful climate, stunning scenery, a great nightlife, and a diverse and friendly people. All this was said amid a country that had an incredible pride despite its dark past. Despite juggling 2 jobs and a boyfriend, I was secretly disappointed, Sabrina managed to spend some time with me and provided a local insight to Cape Town and South Africa. The more she talked about her country and its peoples, the more I wanted to see it with my own eyes. I wasn't expecting any of it. And it's true, I really was hooked. And it may have been that African pull that she had first mentioned once upon a time. I don't know. But the downside to my situation was that I only had 3 weeks in this country, and I had spent 3 weeks sitting in Cape Town. The time disappeared. Now, I did try to extend my flight, but they were ignorant at that office and were completely unhelpful. And I only had a 3-week visa, and I went to the Department of Home Affairs, their immigration, and it was total bedlam. And the thought of standing in that line, if you want to call it that, for an entire day on the chance that I might be able to extend it just wasn't worth it. So I decided to fly to Windhoek. And, I could always come back to South Africa if I wanted. And I also learned a really important lesson about my future travels. I decided not to, from then on, buy an onward flight. It was one way from there on in. That would allow me the freedom to stay as long as I wanted if I got hooked like I did in South Africa. So I went to the airport, put my bags on the plane, had my passport stamped, and was sitting there in the departure lounge. And things started to happen. I actually got a tap on the shoulder, and I turned and looked, and there was this woman who worked for Air Namibia. She asked me if I was traveling alone. I said, sure, of course I am. And then she said, would you mind staying in Cape Town for another night? Our flight is overbooked, and we need somebody to stay. Would you be interested? And before I could say yes, she went on to say, well, you know what, to make it even sweeter for you, we'll pay for your ride back into town, we'll pay for your hotel accommodation, and we'll give you 800 Rand, which is about 200 Canadian bucks, for the inconvenience. Done. So I jumped all over that, and she profusely thanked me, saying that I was the 3rd person she had asked, and of course I was laughing and explained to her the mission nightmares I'd gone through the last couple of days between the ticket office and Home Affairs, and how I'd love to stay longer. And she went on to say, your plane ticket's open for a year. You can stay as long as you want. And I said, really? She said, the one little hitch might be immigration. I think they're only allowed to give you 2 weeks extension, but you'll have to, ask the immigration officer. So this is where we'll pick up the story. Me arriving back in the immigration hall. Of course, there's nobody there because I'm not on an arriving flight. I'm by myself, and here we go. Since I wasn't on an arriving flight, there weren't any other passengers trying to clear immigration when I arrived in the hall. I approached the only open window. The immigration officer took my ticket and passport and asked when I was leaving South Africa. I decided to run with my luck and confidently said, in 3 months. He looked at my plane ticket, shook his head, and replied, "I'm sorry. I'm only supposed to issue 2 weeks." The way he said "supposed to" caught my ear. He said it in a way that indicated there might be more to say on the matter. I decided to ask again. The worst case scenario was him saying no. Regardless, I had an extra 2 weeks in South Africa. It was better than one night and a hell of a lot better than sitting on a plane to Windhoek. What did I have to lose? So, I asked the immigration officer in the most sincere, polite, borderline ass-kissing voice I could muster if there wasn't anything I could do to receive the 3-month extension. He looked at me for a moment, then asked a question that caught me a little off guard. "Do you smoke?" Luckily, I had half a pack of cigarettes in my pocket. Without answering, I took them out and slid the Stuyvesant Extra Miles across the counter. He grabbed the smokes and quickly put them into his pocket. He proceeded to rubber stamp my passport with a 3-month South African tourist visa. I wasn't sure if half a pack of cigarettes would be considered a bribe since no actual money was exchanged. However, bribe or no bribe, I had received my visa. I had another 3 months in South Africa. And yeah, actually, technically it was a bribe, but I didn't care. I had 3 months, I had money in my pocket, and they were sending me to a hotel. In fact, I said, "You know what, don't send me to a hotel. I was having such a good time at this hostel I was staying back. Save some money, send me there." And they threw me an extra 100 rand for some beer. So I got back to the hostel, checked in, walked straight to the in-house bar, ordered a beer. There was a guy sitting next to me who I hadn't talked to. I'd seen him around, but we hadn't talked. And I bought him a drink and kind of told him about my day's fortunes. And he looked at me and said, "Well, what are your plans from now on in?" And honestly, I hadn't given any thought. I was off to Windhoek. The drastic and fortunate change of my circumstances hadn't yet sunk in. I glanced at a clock on the wall. At that precise moment, I would have been landing in Windhoek if the Air Namibia representative hadn't found me. If I'd gone to buy a drink or slipped into the bathroom for a piss, I wouldn't be in South Africa right now. What were my plans? I didn't have a clue, but I knew I could do pretty much anything I wanted. South Africa was my playground. Vince informed me that he worked for an adventure company that abseiled people down Table Mountain. He told me that he, his brother, and a co-worker were going on a 2-month promotion run. He mentioned that the trip started in Cape Town, went across the entire country, and ended in Swaziland. He said that his company paid for the car, and that we would have discounts along the way in backpackers, bungee jumps, and so forth because he worked in the tourism industry. He revealed that there was an extra spot in the car, and he wondered if I would be interested in taking it. Maybe my generosity in buying him a couple of beers led to the offer. Maybe Vince felt there was something lucky about me and wanted to keep me around as a type of rabbit's foot. Maybe it was the mystical South African power working through Vince and ensuring that I got out of Cape Town and properly explored and experienced all this enthralling land had to offer. Regardless of the reason, I jumped at his invitation and happily accepted the free ride across South Africa. I looked at the clock again. If my day had gone according to plan, I'd probably just be clearing Namibian immigration. Auspiciously, things don't go according to plan. With the power of the African pull, I think deep down part of me wasn't expecting that they would. Chapter 12, Expectations. I hope you enjoyed that one. I certainly did. It was a moment in my trip that changed everything around. I had no idea what the future was going to hold, except that I was going to see South Africa over the next couple months in the comfort of an automobile. So hopefully you'll be back next week to find out what I got up to and what happens next. If you want to find out more about myself or the book through Travel and Error, Confessions of an Asylum-Seeking Canadian, please visit my website, madmattiesworld.com. Anyways, until next week, I hope you have a great one. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.